everyone, welcome back to the layout. The Union Pacific Railroad Evanston subdivision in HO scale. My name is Daryl Cruz, owner and builder of the layout and your host for episode 10 of season 2024. This week we feature the Morgan, Utah area. This is an area just east of the staging yards. It's the beginning of the journey across the Evanston sub from Ogden to Green River. And as I said, I've been working on the upper level here at this location. Now I'm transitioning to working on the lower level. And this is kind of how far I've gotten to this point, but just kind of want to overview a little bit of what's going to be done here. I'm going to put some basic scenery in here, and one key thing here is going to be an underpass. This is a unique feature of Morgan. And then this will be like the downtown area. Here's some pictures of Morgan, kind of what it will hopefully look like. Some shopping strips there. There's two underpasses, one on each end of the town. So that's going to be some pretty important features of the layout. Then we're going to work our way down. So that's going to be the Morgan area, and then work our way down towards the Taggart tunnels. And this will be like the backdrops that we'll have here. These are pictures I took at the Morgan, Utah area. So that's kind of what we're going to be looking at in the future. Then eventually, of course, continuing to work down the layout to get most of the basic scenery completed. So to get it to the point where it was today, I mainly focused on the backdrops. So one of the first things I did was put this piece of hardboard in there. I got a 4x8 sheet of hardboard from Home Depot for the whopping price of $13. Had them cut it into three pieces, lengthwise 16 inches in width. And I basically just attached it with two screws so that we would have the curved backdrop here. See, I moved some of the buildings out of the way already. Then I needed to put some backdrop material up. Now, this is some backdrop material that's now on its third or fourth layout. I used this on my Geneva sub, and even a little bit before that even. This is a styrene roll. This is actually some sheathing that's used under decks to keep them waterproof if you want to sit under the deck. It's 20 inches wide and 25 or 50 feet long. And I've been using these for quite a while. I paint it with latex paint, and that's pretty flexible. So when I roll it up, it seems to be okay. You notice there I marked where I was going to cut it because it's 20 inches wide. And there was not 20 inches in between the deck. So I needed to cut off about 3 inches. So I just used my T-square and did that. Now this is going to go back behind the layout here. And when I built the benchwork, I made sure I left some space all the way around. Although here with the curve, I knew it was going to have to come up and then back down again when I got to this area. So I was going to have the backdrop go back behind the benchwork except for that curved area there. So here you can see all the way around. Had to actually move that a little bit. So I needed to cut a gap for that curved area, so I measured the distance. This is kind of where I thought the backdrop would start. And then I measured to where it was going to have to come up. And it came out to be about 9 feet, 3 inches, 3.5 inches or so. Because then it had to come up because it's going to have to go on top of the plywood at this point, where it then curves around. And then I would be able to go back down again on this side. Now this piece of hardboard that I put up, I cut it to only 6 feet in length. So I was able to cut the gap for the appropriate length. I made it a little bit longer than 6 feet because I figured it'd be better to be longer than shorter. All right, so here I am at the layout, and I got the styrene backdrop ready to go up. And I should say this is a two-man job. Unfortunately, I was doing it by myself. So it's definitely not the most, not the easiest thing to do. But you just kind of have to just power through it. And here you can see how I got some of it up. So some's up on the layout. Try to get it back behind it a little bit. I took some video whenever I could get to the point where I could let go of it. So here you can see I have a little bit more down. Here's the gap that I needed to get in there. And then here's the other side of the gap. All right, here I have it back behind there. Pretty good. So I got the left side of it, or the west end of it, pretty good. Still have the rest of this to go yet. And then here now I have it up completely, and then I just use a staple gun to attach it at the top and then a few places at the bottom. Then both cases would not have to, you would not be able to see the staples. Now here I have a little cut out there. That was for a basement window in Rochelle. That was the first time I had put this piece up, and that was actually a gap cut for a basement window. But here you can see it's completely behind. And I wanted to have this up because I didn't want to attach the scenery to the sheetrock. So when this is taken down, that wouldn't be an issue. And then I like to have cases where you have the sky in place, and then I cut out the mountains to go onto the sky. I did that on the peninsula area. Now here's the second piece that I used. Didn't have to cut this one because the gap between the decks is wider at this point. Now I'm going to have to repaint this. The color I used here is more of a purplish blue, so it doesn't really look right. But here you can see where, again, I have it going back behind, and I always made sure I left a little gap when I built the benchwork because I knew I was going to have to be putting a backdrop behind there. Now, this is a cut that I put in for the electrical panel. Show you how that works here in a second, but I wasn't able to get all of this styrene up. So it's 25 feet and then 18 feet that I had, and that's the last of the styrene that I have, so I won't be able to use it anymore. You can see the difference in color. The one that I put up initially on the left there matches the color of the sky from the photos on the upper deck. So I'm going to have to repaint it. We repaint this one. It's kind of got a bunch of scrapes and stuff on it anyway. So we'll definitely need to repaint it, but that won't be too difficult to do. And then here you see I was even able to get a little bit towards the hardboard. Now this is going to be the Tagger Mountains Devil's Slide. I don't have any more of the styrene left, so this is just going to have to be printed backdrops all the way through here. This is a Wholesome Cement, and then this is Echo and the Echo Canyon. So all the rest of this area here is going to have to just be a printed backdrop. Won't be able to put up any styrene. And I would buy some more styrene, but I can't find it anymore anywhere. I bought that probably 15 years ago. Now this second piece was long on both the lower levels and upper levels, was along a straightaway. So this second piece of backdrop on the lower level was way easier to put up than the part on the curve because it was straight. I just laid it flat, like I have the backdrop on the top level. So I just laid it flat like this is here on the. Did that on the bottom level also, and was able to get in there, get it up very, very easily. All right, now one thing I had to consider here is the electrical panel. So I built the benchwork so that it would drop down, as you can see here. Sorry about the focus here, is kind of really weird. All right, but I have it now so that you can open up the electrical panel back behind there. And the way I have it designed so that the sheet will kind of go back underneath the sheet that's on the right. So that actually worked out pretty good. And we'll see the entire process here in a little bit. This is just for the lower level. Taking it down. So I timed it. It took about 2 or 3 minutes to get it to the point where I could open up the electrical panel. And then just a couple of minutes to put it back down. Now here's, to get the electrical panel open, I have to do something on the upper level also. So here we have the lift out section. Actually has some wiring. On the lower level, the wiring just went underneath it because it folded down. But this is a lift out, so there are some plugs there that I have to unplug, and then this whole piece comes out. And then I'm kind of have the same deal, except this time I'm just going to have one, rather than cut this printed sheet, I just put some Velcro on 2 places, and then it's just going to fold back like this. And that way, again, you can open up the panel. So it works pretty slick. So here you see it with both levels out, and I can in fact open the door and access the electrical panel. So to take the lower level down and the upper level up out of the way takes about 2 to 3 minutes, and then to put it all back together, again, a couple minutes is all. And so hopefully it will be pretty easy process to access the electrical panel. I might want to put the backdrop over first. Now the lower level is going to eventually have scenery on it. So there's going to be a seam on the scenery also. So I'm going to have to figure out some way to kind of make that gap in the scenery as invisible as possible. And I was surprised when I put it all back together. It did, the tracks lined up pretty well. It's going to be even better once I get the track ballasted. So here we are all back together. So was pretty happy with the way that turned out. I think it's going to be a pretty easy job of taking it down and then putting it back up to access the electrical panel. I will probably also put a sign above it indicating that that's the location of the electrical panel. Okay, so this is how it looks right now. And I'm ready to go on to the next step, which will be this week. I'm going to try and get scenery in there with some cardboard webbing and some plaster cloth. Here's a couple of box cars that a friend gave me when they came over to operate. he has a habit of always bringing a couple of cars um, as a token of appreciation for operating on the layout. But I told him yesterday, don't bring any more cars. He doesn't have to do that. But it was nice to get a couple more cars. But hopefully that will be it. You don't have to bring cars to operate on the layout. But it definitely was a nice gesture on his part. So this will all be at least started on the scenery. So we'll start to cover this up and get it looking more finished with some basic scenery. So I don't think I'll get it all done by this week, but I'll probably be able to get all the plaster shell in and everything, and then maybe do the painting of the scenery and the scenic materials, the ground foam and trees and the mountain backdrops and all that maybe the next week. So I'm figuring a couple more weeks, maybe 3 weeks before we get this section done. Not sure how far I'll get on the bridges, but I would like to get the bridges in with the abutments and everything also. So it might take more than 3 weeks. We'll see. Try and get a little bit done each week. So here you get a chance to see trains running through as a before, and hopefully in a few weeks we'll be able to see the trains going through on the after, and it'll look much more realistic. Here these units are coming up to the signals, and they have to come to a stop. There's another train coming out in the track that they're heading towards. All right, lights are on. You hear the engine starting up. This is the unit I got last week. The AC 4400 patched Southern Pacific. So this was painted for the Southern Pacific in the 1990s, and then the Union Pacific bought out the Southern Pacific, and instead of repainting the entire engine, they just put a patch on it, the yellow patch or gold, and then the UP6289. And it stayed this way. I think they took possession of the SP in like 97, I think it was, or somewhere around there. And then this particular locomotive stayed in this condition with just the patch until about 2017 or so. So this is a train first coming out of the staging yard. And the main line is left-hand running from Morgan here, from actually the staging yard. It's left-hand running all the way to Kerrville. And then at Kerrville it crosses over and it becomes a right-hand running layout. So this will look really cool when we get the scenery in and some buildings back there and some roads, vehicles, trees, backdrop. So definitely looking forward to how that's going to turn out. And once this train gets past, then we'll go ahead and have the dispatcher throw the turnouts to straight through, and then this train here, once it gets the signal, will continue into the staging yard and take the track that the train just came out of. So that is a Tier 4 at the lead there, Gevel, a straight Gevel in the middle, and then another Tier 4 Gevel, 2689. Those are all by scale trains. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. As this train goes into the staging yard, wish you a great week coming up. Hope you had a great St. Patrick's Day and a great week coming up. And stay tuned for another update on this Sunday. Take care, everybody.